right, guys, good morning. Find the seat number that's written on here and fill out the card. Find the seat number that's written here in the room and start filling out this card, please. Good morning. Good morning. If you would find the seat number that's written on the card, on the back side of the card, there's a seat number. And find your way to that seat and start filling out the card. Find the seat number. Good morning. Good morning. Find the seat number that's written on the back of this card. Make your way to that seat. And start filling out the card. Good morning. If you would find the seat number that's written on the back of this card and start filling out the card. So again, one more morning. One more time. If you would go ahead and find this seat number in the room and start filling out the card. Seat number on the back. All right, guys, so good morning. We're going to take just a few minutes, and what I'd like you to do, everybody should have found their way to the seat number that was written on the back of this card. And then if you would, go ahead and start filling out the front side. It's got your name and 3 questions that it's asking. And we'll take about 3 minutes at the beginning here to have you guys fill these cards out, and we'll come back together here momentarily. So about 3 minutes to get these filled out. And if you get finished early, you can sit tight quietly till the end of the 3 minutes is up. We'll be coming back together momentarily. One more minute. All right, guys, you can go ahead and put your pencils down at this point. Let me get everyone's eyes up this way, please. I just want to say welcome. My name is Mr. Rose. This is 6th grade language arts. You are in the right place. And before we get started, I wanted to kind of go over, give you a little introduction about who I am, a little bit about my background before I have some moments to tell you about, some of the procedures, things of this class, and learn a little bit about you guys. So again, like I said before, my name is Mr. Rose. I've actually taught for about 10 years now. I've actually taught 3rd grade, I've taught 7th grade, I've taught 10th grade, 11th, and 12th grade. And I will say for me, I definitely prefer middle school and above. I taught 3rd grade for 1 year and realized that students are way too young for me in 3rd grade. And actually my moment of realization that I was like, elementary school is not my thing, do you guys remember when you were in elementary school when you had carpet time? Yeah. Right? And the teachers would come together for carpet time. So I had this moment where we were, I think we were reading a book or something. It was carpet time, and there was a little kid who raised his hand. Mr. Rose, Mr. Rose. Yes, sir. He said, I have to go to the bathroom really bad, Mr. Rose. And I said, can you wait just a few minutes? We only have a few minutes left of carpet time. He said, okay. And then a few minutes later, the kid next to him, Mr. Rose, Mr. Rose. What's up? He said, there's a wet spot on the carpet right next to me. I don't know what it is. And that was my moment of like, 3rd grade is too young for me. I don't want to do 3rd grade anymore. So I definitely prefer middle school and above. I've never had an accident like that happen in middle school and above, and I appreciate that, right? So just to tell you guys a little bit about myself, I like to be outdoors, camping, hiking, kayaking. I usually will go on a long kayaking trip once or twice a year. Back when I was younger, when I was like 18, I hiked for about a month on the Appalachian Trail. It's a trail that goes from Georgia to Maine, or Maine to Georgia. I set out with the intention of doing the whole thing. It's a 6-month commitment to hike 2,000 miles from Maine to Georgia. I got about 300 miles, about a month, before I realized like this is a little bit too tough for me. I had an accident or two and ended up going home after only a month. But I do still enjoy that kind of stuff, even though I have not gone on an extended hiking trip like that since I was like 18 or 19. But one of the things that I am going to ask you guys to do this week, a little bit later on this week, part of my goal in this first week of school is for me to learn about you guys, to learn a little bit about who you are and your story. And I actually have a project that I'm going to ask you guys to do for Thursday of this week. It's a really easy. It's a really easy if you take it seriously. A good way to start off the year with 100% in the grade book. But so for this initial project that I'm going to ask everybody to do is what I'm going to ask everyone to bring in is 3 items from around your house, from your room, but 3 items that sort of symbolize or embody your story. Who you are, what you like, what you're all about. And I actually brought in an example here to show you what I'm asking for. I brought in 3 items myself that I thought would kind of summarize a little nicely who I am to give you an idea of what I'm asking for later this week. So the first item, I'll pull out the big one first. One of the things that I do like to paint art. I like art. And so actually I have, this is just one example. This one's actually a knockoff of someone else, of a guy named Banksy that I've done. But I do have quite a few similar artwork, works of art. I used to sell stuff at Art Walk on, if you guys know Art Walk down at downtown, once a month. It's been a while since I've been down selling artwork down that way, but I do still have quite a few just decorating my room, around my house and stuff, because I do really enjoy doing this. So that's one piece that gives you a little bit about me. A second item that I brought in is not so much about the gnome itself, but this is a Reds gnome that somebody gave me a while ago. I'm originally from Cincinnati, and the Reds. I do like baseball, but the Reds is like my team of choice, which it is a point of contention in my family. Because my wife and all of her family are from New York, and they're big Yankees fans. I don't know if I have any Yankees fans in here, but I tell the story to my kids in trying to win my kids over to be Reds fans. I always tell them, you guys have read the story, The Tortoise and the Hare, right? You know that story, The Tortoise and the Hare, right? And I say, like, rooting for the Yankees is like rooting for the hare in that story. You don't root for the hare in the story, right? You root for the turtle, you root for the tortoise. And so, the Yankees, this huge, big team, like, I feel like if you root for the Yankees, you're like rooting for the big, guy who everybody expects to win anyway. So anyway, that's my second item, is the Reds gnome. And then my third item, I was trying to think what else could I bring in that kind of embodies me. I just brought in a book. It's one of my favorite books because I do like to read. If I don't feel like I don't have a lot of free time, but any free time that I get, one of the things I like to do is read. So I brought in a book to embody that. Now, when we talk about you guys doing this project a little bit later on, there's no right or wrong response with this. I mean, as long as you're bringing something in that kind of tells me about who you are and about your story, that's all I'm looking for. So I'm not going to be like, your object sucked, you get a low grade. But I do feel like I've done this project quite a few times, and one of the things that I can always tell is when students forget about it until like the moment of. And on Thursday when I start calling people up to give their presentation, there's like students who are like, oh, my project, yeah, okay, let me see. One item that shows who I am is a pen because I like to write. And let's see, a second item that I brought in was my wallet because I like to spend money and buy stuff. And let's see, the third item that I brought in is my phone because I like to talk on the phone with my friends. So I feel like I say all this because I can always tell when somebody completely forgot to do it and they just brought in whatever happened to be with them at that moment. That's what I don't want. As long as you're bringing in, anything from home, anything that kind of shows me who you are, please don't bring in whatever you happen to have in your pockets that day. Does that make sense? Questions about, we'll talk between now and then, we will talk a little bit more to kind of make sure we're on the right track and make sure you guys are understanding this project. But you get a general understanding of what I'm asking for this project later this week. Yeah. Yes? Yes. Perfect. So let me also say, one of the things that that students often want to know about me as a student when they first meet me is, and I'm going to be their teacher, one of the questions that students often will ask is, what kind of teacher are you? Are you nice? Are you mean? Are you strict? How much can we get away with in your class? And I suppose the best way that I can answer that question is that I feel like I'm always strict in the sense that I expect a lot from you and I won't let students get away with a whole lot. But I feel like I'm always kind. I don't yell very often. And we're going to talk in just a moment about some policies, procedures, some of the things that get on my nerves a little bit. So hopefully we won't have any yelling happening this year. But I do have high expectations of you. My first year teaching, I had a student that just ticked me off, upset me, and I asked him to step out of the classroom and he refused. I ended up taking his stuff and I opened the door and I threw his stuff in the hallway and I said, go pick your stuff up on the way to the dean's office or whatever. I haven't done that since then. I'm not saying that because I'm proud, but I am saying that because hopefully some of the procedures and rules and pet peeves and things that we're going to talk about this week will help that to never happen again, right? So let's see. I will also say that my time teaching elementary school, I'm not afraid to call parents. So that is something that I do pretty regularly that I take away from my time being in an elementary school classroom. And then, so now I would like to jump in to talk about some procedures, rules, some things to expect in here. There will be a quiz at the end of the week this week on all of the items that we talk about, all the items that we go over the course of this week, rules, procedures, and things. And so the very first thing, I know it's over in the corner over this way. I do have some posters over this way that are a little smaller, but have described some of the things we're going to talk about. But the very first thing I want to talk to you guys about is my pet peeves. Does anybody know what a pet peeve is? What's a pet peeve? Something that gets on your nerves. Something that's like fingernails on a chalkboard. And so for me, I have a handful of things as a teacher that get on my nerves. It's my pet peeves. That like you may know from other classes that you've been in that teachers have different pet peeves and things that irritate them. I want to try to make this explicit so that you know exactly what it is that's exactly what will get you on my bad side, so that doesn't happen. So I have 4 of them that are like, for me, it's like fingernails on a chalkboard, right? And the very first thing that is my #1 pet peeve is people talking while I am. If I'm up here teaching, if I'm up here talking, my expectation is that you are not talking, right? That your body's turned, facing me, not fiddling with stuff on your desk, not working on your math homework that's due next period, but you're acting like whatever I'm saying is the most important thing you've ever heard. So if I say something funny, even if it's not that funny, but you can tell that I'm trying to be funny, how do you think you should respond? So like, pretend I just told a joke. And it's really funny, what do you do? Yes. Okay, if I tell you something that's sad, if I tell you a sad story, I tell you about how my cat just died and my kids are so sad about it, how would you react? Duh, no, not laughing. Not laughing. You say, oh, Mr. Rose, I'm sorry. Sorry to hear that. I feel like personally, I'm really good at this. Like when we're in staff meetings, people make fun of me about it. Like if somebody's up talking, like I'm one who's like, I like nod, and I'm like, yes, and I smile when whoever's leading the training makes eye contact with me. And to the point that people make fun of me, that I'm like doing this, and I'll like look over at my friend, and they're like, But my point is that like, I feel like in a class, even though there's a lot of you here, I feel like I'm having an individual conversation with each one of you. And so like if you're writing, if you're doodling, if you've got your head down, I take it personally. So again, back to that first pet peeve. Again, people talking while I am. You wouldn't have a conversation if your friend was talking to you, just the two of you. You wouldn't be talking to someone else, and I had that same expectation. Let's see. My second pet peeve is people complaining. Like, I feel like I try really hard to have a number of activities that I think will be fun in here, things that are engaging, things that you will enjoy. And the last thing that I want to do is spend 2 hours working on something that we're going to be doing in class, and I give the instructions, and, students are like, oh my God, this is so stupid, I hate this. Like, can't we just watch a movie, Mr. Rose? So, I get there may be times where you feel like, I don't really want to do this is annoying, Mr. Rose, why are you making me do this? But what I'm asking is, keep it to yourself. Okay? If I'm annoyed with you, I will make my best effort to not vocalize that. You will never know that, and I'm asking the same from you. To not complain about any of the things that we do in here. There may be some even outlets for me to get some feedback from you, but don't come in and be like, oh, I hate this, Mr. Rose, this is stupid. Oh, right? The third thing that is my pet peeve, fingernails on a chalkboard, is people being mean, whether it's to me or to someone else. I know middle school is tough, and there's drama that happens very often, but what I'm asking for is that this be a safe space, that when you come in here, that you're not mean to each other, not mean to people outside of here, but this is a room, an environment that's filled with kindness towards other people, because that's one that gets on my nerves. And my last and final pet peeve is asking someone more than once for something. What I mean by that is, if we're working on some activity and I come up to somebody and say, hey, can you put that away? Someone's working on another math assignment. Hey, can you put that away? I don't want to have to come back around again and say it more than one time. Or if I say, hey, my number one pet peeve is people talking while I am. Can you hold the conversations? I don't want to ask that again 2 minutes later. Right? So those are my 4 items. It's over on the wall over here. I do have those mentioned, what those 4 pet peeves are. This is one of the things that I will be asking for you to know when we come to the procedures quiz on Friday. The point where I'm quizzing you on the stuff that we're talking about this week. Those pet peeves are stuff that I expect you to know. What gets on Mr. Rose's nerves? Oh, absolutely, people talking while he's talking. That's fingernails on a chalkboard, right? Let's see. One other item that I will mention is your participation grade in here. One of the grades that I give out, it's a really simple grade, is a participation grade. Every time I see a student in here with their head down, working on something else, doing something that they shouldn't be doing, not engaged in whatever the activity is that we are doing, I'm not a teacher who likes to butt heads with students. I'm like, I told you a million times, that's a conduct point, mister. All I'm going to say is participation. And what that means, if I look at you and I say participation grade, that means you are not participating, you're not actively engaged in what you're doing, and your participation grade drops by 3 points every time I have to address that in class. Okay? So, again, I don't expect this will be a huge issue, but if I say to someone, hey, participation, that's a signal that your grade is dropping because you are not engaged in whatever it is that I asked you to be doing. Right? If you're working on math homework when you're supposed to be reading silently, or whatever that may be. Okay? Any questions at this point? And I will also say another thing. I am not a teacher who likes to stand up in front of the classroom and talk at you for the entire period. For the first day, maybe a little bit into tomorrow, I feel like we will be heavily involved in me standing up and talking a little bit, because I do want to talk about these procedures before we get into some of the types of activities that we'll be doing. It is a little heavy on me standing up in front of the room talking, but that won't be like this forever, okay? Another item that I want to talk about is getting your attention. If we are, let's say, we're working on a group assignment, I need to bring everybody back up this way. One of the things that I do, you may have different teachers or have had different teachers that do different things like the clap, they clap and you clap back, or they ring a bell or something. My standard way to get your attention is I'm going to say high five, and then I will count backwards from 5 to 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I don't need you to count with me. In fact, I'll ask you not to count with me. But by the time I get to 1, my expectation is that you are fully focused on me, not talking, not working. Okay, your pencil's down, whatever you were writing, and your eyes are on me. Okay? So I would actually like to try this, okay, one time. So with somebody that's close by you, I don't care what you talk about. You can talk about what you did, over the weekend. You can talk about what you got going on this week. But if you don't have anything to say, you can just turn to someone and just say blah, 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 blah. I don't care. Okay? So go ahead and look at the person next to you or someone close by you. You can engage in a short conversation or just look at them and say blah, 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 blah. All right, guys, let me get a high five, please. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, that was absolutely perfect. We will keep practicing this. I'm always worried that there's like one person who says 0, like yells that out. Thank you for not doing that. So my expectation, again, everyone's eyes are on me. You're done talking. That was absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. All right, so the next item that I would like to talk about is the procedures for coming into class. So every day you can expect the same thing to happen when you come in here, and there's 4 steps that are going to be involved in coming into class. Again, there's a sheet that's got the details if you forget over on the side of the room over here. But the 4 steps to coming into class is number 1, coming in quietly. And what I mean by that is leaving conversations in the hallway. The moment you step over that threshold into this class, my expectation is voices are off. If you have there's some drama that's going on and you absolutely have to talk to somebody and there's a minute or 2 left before the bell rings, that's totally fine to grab that person, go in the hallway, and finish your conversation. Whatever it is you're talking about. I have no problem with that. But once you step over the threshold into this classroom, my expectation of voices are off. So that's step 1, coming in quietly. Number 2 is going directly to your seat, which means not coming over here to check out what's over on the bookshelf over here, or coming over this way to fiddle with stuff, or back over to look through anything that's on the back table. You're going directly to your seat. Pretty easy at this point, right? That's step 2. Number 3, this is just a thing that I prefer, is putting everything under your desk except for whatever it is that we're working on at that moment. So, where's my sloppy people at? Do we have people that have like 100 things that you carry around with you, and it's always like a stack that's ready to fall over? This guy over this way? Yeah? Okay. So, instead of having everything on your desk with like stuff that's falling over, everything goes under your desk except for what we're working on. So if you have a sheet of paper or a composition book, we'll talk about where I want you guys to be putting stuff later on. But everything's going to go under your desk, under your chair, except for what we're working on at that moment. And then finally, the last step is to start the warm-up. Every day when you come in here, there will be a warm-up on the board that usually takes anywhere between 3 and 5 minutes to complete. And so as soon as you come in, you get to your seat, you put everything under your desk, you start the warm-up. That's the final step, right? Starting the warm-up. So I would actually like to practice this. Okay? I know it seems like you get it. There's 4 steps, but I like to practice this. So what I would like everybody to do, I know I just told you to put everything under your desk. I'd like you to grab it back out one more time, and we're actually going to go outside, and we're going to sort of pretend like this is the first few minutes of class, and going over those 4 steps. Wait, before we go, let's review. Make sure we got it. Step 1 is what? You can cheat if you want to. Looking over the bullets. Step 1.
Come to class, right?
Come in quietly. You guys don't stand up just yet. So coming in quietly, leaving conversation in the hallway. When we go outside, if there's something you really want to talk about that you need to talk about, feel free to do that in the hallway. Once you step in, no more talking. Second step. Go straight to your seat. So again, we will switch seats up throughout the year, but for now, where I have you, this is the place. I don't do like sit wherever you want to. So the assigned seats that you're in right now, that's where you're going to live at until I tell you otherwise. Step 3. Put everything under your table except what you're working on, which I will say, we'll talk about some of the things that you need for today. If you have a notebook, composition book, extra sheet of paper, just do it. It doesn't matter where you do the warm-up at today. Just doing it, and I have extra paper if anybody needs extra paper. And the last step is starting the warm-up. Do the warm-up, which I'm going to put up on the board before. You can expect from this point on, every time you come in here, there will be a warm-up on the board, and that's what you're doing. Okay? So everybody grab your stuff and stand up. And we are going to make our way out into the hallway. Again, once you get out there, feel free if you have a conversation point, something you want to talk about with somebody, that's totally fine. When we're walking out in the hallway, please. Alright guys, again, if there's something you want to, any conversations you're having, finish them up right now. And let's come on in. Remember those steps. Come on in. Perfect. Perfect so far. Perfect so far. Awesome. So again, everything's going under your desk except for, is there anybody who needs an extra sheet of paper? Does everybody have stuff to write on? Okay, and we'll talk later this week about extra supplies and what to do if you come without supplies and what you need. But you can go ahead and do the warm-up on this sheet of paper. And we'll take about 3 minutes or so. Again, the warm-up says write as much as you can in 5 minutes to tell me about your 5th grade language arts class. What was your teacher like? What things did you like doing? What things did you dislike doing? Again, let's just see in, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes how much you can give me. Okay? Yes, sir. Oh, sorry. You're welcome. Set the timer. All right, I know some people are still writing, and I'd say wherever you're at this point, whatever you've given me, go ahead and wrap it up, finish the sentence that you're on, and put your pencils down. Let me see eyes up this way once you've done that. Is there any questions about those steps to coming into class, the 4 steps to coming into class? Yes, sir.
When you come into class, be quiet, sit down in your...
No, I just meant, are there any questions? We're actually, I'm going to review everything we've talked about at this point. There's no questions, we go with that. And we will practice this pretty much every day this week, making sure we've got it down till it's a routine, okay? So now, let me see, if you follow me with your eyes, I know I have over this way, I have some, whatever posters that have this information on it, but let's see. So these items that we're going to be looking to for Friday, for this quiz, let's see if we can sort of have a pop quiz, see where everybody's at this point. I mentioned 4 pet peeves, 4 things that are like fingernails on a chalkboard for me. Give me one.
You hate like students arguing?
Being mean. People being mean to each other. That's 1. Give me a second. Complaining. That's 2. Give me a third.
Talking when you're talking.
Talking while I'm talking. That's my biggest one. Okay? And lastly, you remember the last one? Asking someone more than once for something. Absolutely. Those are the 4. Okay, perfect. You guys are already ready to do great on the quiz on Friday from all the stuff we've talked about. All right, now the 4 steps to coming into class. Now, coming back to what you said. Give me the first one. What's the first step?
Coming into class quietly.
Come in quietly, leaving conversations in the hallway. Good. Second step.
Once you come in class, put your stuff on
I know some of this kind of comes together. You're jumping ahead just a little bit. I mentioned, before I said put everything under your seat, what was the second thing I mentioned? So coming in quietly, but going directly to your seat, right? And so I know that, is that really a step? Okay, I just, so that everybody knows this is part of the process. Going directly to your seat, then comes put everything under your desk except for what we're working on, which I see one thing. If you would put that under your desk, that's one of the steps. Thank you, sir. And the 4th step, the last and final step. When you come in, what are we doing? With the warm-up, starting the warm-up every single day, including... I know you guys. I know you probably don't believe this, including the last week of school. The day before Thanksgiving, the day before Christmas, the day before spring break. Every day there's a warm up in here. Sometimes might be connected to stuff that we're reading or doing in class. Sometimes it might be stuff like this. Tell me about what you did over the week. Give me some background on you and your story. But anyway, those are the items. And then when I say high five, and we count back from 5 to 1, what are the things that I mentioned you should be doing by the time I get to 1? Completely focused on me, meaning no writing, no talking, eyes on me. Nod your head if you're with me. Okay, good. All right, so one piece that I'd like to do, this is, part of the first week is getting to know you guys, learning who you are. I know some teachers, it's like end of the first quarter before they know everyone's name. One of the things that I'm going to do is ask you, the sheet that you did the warm-up on, I'd like you to flip it over. Not the little card, but the full page, what you just wrote this on. If you flip that over, one of the things that I always do is I'll actually get students' picture. Now, I promise not to post it on, some sort of social media page, only for me. But what I want you to do is really big. I want you to write your name, really big on this sheet of paper, and tell me, wait, before you write it, because I don't want you to take the whole space, let me give you the full instructions first. Write your name and tell me one thing that you like doing outside of school. Like on your own time. I like to play baseball. I like to dance. I like to play video games. Whatever those. Tell me something other than playing video games, please. Other than playing video games. What do you like to do? And write it really big, because what I'm going to actually do is come around and very quickly just go student to student and snap a picture. You're going to hold it up, and this is going to help me know who's who. Help me know who each person is. I don't like to wait until the end of the, first month of school before I finally have everybody's name, and this will help me. So writing your name, big enough that I can see it. What you go, you don't have to give me your full complete name, give me what you go by. And if you wrote your full complete name and that's not what you go by, maybe write it underneath it. And this is what I will call you for the whole year, so don't put Low Kiki unless you really want me to call you Low Kiki. I don't know. All right, once you got it, don't block your face. Just hold it up underneath, and I'm just going to come around and just do this quickly. Again, this is to help me out learning everybody's name. All right, if you're ready. Hold it up. Don't block your face. I want to see you, because otherwise I won't know who you are. And boom. Boom. All right, who's ready? We ready? Boom. Oh, don't block your. I promise. I will. As soon as I know these names, I will delete these pictures. I promise. I'm not gonna hold on to it till you graduate and be like, look at these pictures. Remember these guys way back when? All right. Let's see. Boom, boom. Let me see your face. I know your name. Who have I not gotten? Where are we at? Over this way. Let me see. Hold it up. Let me see. Boom. Did I get you? Come on. Okay. All right. Let's see. I was like hoping. I was like, please tell me I got enough space on my phone. I actually cleaned out my phone just to make sure. I feel like it's like some really awesome moment. My kids are doing something great. I'm like, oh, I need a picture of this. And I go and my phone says not enough space. Okay. I got you? Word?
No, you didn't.
Come on. Real quick. Real quick. You don't want me to know who you are? Okay. I got you, right? Did I get you already? I didn't get you? Okay. There we go. All right. Is that everybody? There you go. I promise, I pinky promise I will delete these as soon as I know everybody's name. As soon as I got everybody's name. All right. We good at this point?
Yes.
Any questions, anything we've talked about so far? All right. Let's talk about 2 items that you're going to need for this class this year. There's not a lot of stuff that I'm asking you to get a hold of, but there are a few things. One item is a composition book. And each of these items that we're talking about today, I need you to bring with you every single day when you come in here. Okay? So you're going to have to bring this every time you come in here. If you don't have it with you, it will affect your participation grade that I mentioned before. It's the easiest A that you get in here as long as you come and engage and you bring stuff with you. So that participation grade, bringing in a composition book, everything that we do in this class, from warm-ups to classwork, short of like longer essays that we're writing, everything that we do in here is going to go in this composition book. Okay? So tomorrow, if you have a composition book tomorrow, when we do the warm-ups, this is a place where you're going to put the warm-up. If there's a classwork activity, there is something later this week that we're doing, I'm going to ask you to put it in this composition book. So this is the place where I'm going to ask you to collect everything that we do over the course of this year. And then the other item is a 3-ring binder. Doesn't have to be a huge one. Any size works. This is one of the smaller sizes. But all of the items that I end up giving out, that we do in here, stuff that I provide to you is going to go into this composition book. So these 2 items, or not composition book, into this 3-ring binder. So these 2 items, and then the final item, I guess I have in my pocket, is a pen or pencil. I don't care if you write in pen or pencil. I'm not like, it has to be pen or it has to be pencil, but something to write with. So these 3 items are the things I'm asking you to bring with you every day. Okay? Any questions about that? All right, let's see time-wise where we are. Okay? Another item that I want to draw your attention to is over this way, the assignment board, where you're going to see any upcoming assignments that are due this week. This is the place where if there's a test or quiz, if there is some writing assignment later that's going to be due later this week, you're going to find it written up on the board. And what I want to avoid is a student who is absent. They are absent on a Thursday or something, and they come into school on Friday, we've got a quiz or something due, and they'll be like, I had no idea. I didn't know this was due. And I'll say, it was written up on the board all week. Okay? So what I'd like you to do, what I want us to get in the habit of doing, this is every Monday, because I have listed everything that's due for the upcoming week, and if there's stuff for future weeks, I will have it written up on the board. I'd like to take a moment and just on wherever you did the warm-up for today, we'll talk about where it's going to go in your composition book later on. Just want to take the opportunity of writing down any items that are coming up that are due every Monday, and I will remind you for the first month or 2 about us making sure we write down any of the upcoming assignments. Let's take just 1 minute and go ahead and copy down the items that are written up on the assignment board for this week. Go ahead and take a minute and write those down. And I will say, if you are a person, some students really use their agenda planners more than others. If you are a student who uses that agenda planner and you write everything in your agenda planner, I'm fine with you using the agenda planner to write this stuff down. You can totally do that if that's the place where it's helpful. I do require everybody to write this down. If you don't write, it's fine if it's not in your agenda planner, if it's just in your notebook. But we're going to get in the habit of writing this down in the same place every week so that you always know what's coming up, what's due, what do I have that I have to complete. And again, my apologies that these first day or two, we will get into some more, stuff where I have you guys talking and doing some stuff together in the next couple days. But for today, it ends up being a little bit more of me standing up and talking than usual. That's not going to be the case as much as it is this week. All right, everybody took an opportunity to write those items down. Now, a couple other points that I want to point out in the few minutes that we have left. First is my bathroom policy. This is, again, part of the reason why I appreciate you guys so much more than, little kids in elementary school, is that I can't stand potty issues. I feel like it's stuff that I really don't want to deal with. As I mentioned before, third graders went from 0 to I'm going to wet my pants very quickly. And so the way I do restroom passes in here is that everybody, for each 9 weeks, everybody gets 2 restroom passes. If you use your 2 restroom passes in the first week, you don't get any more restroom passes, short of having a note from your mom or dad saying, like, there's a medical issue, you need to let my student go more often. If you have that, that's totally fine. We don't have to talk about it in front of the class, you can just bring that in. But if you don't have a medical emergency that necessitates it, you get 2 per quarter. So I'm going to go ahead and give these to you. You can go put these in, ultimately, that folder or the notebook that I mentioned that I wanted everybody to have. That's the place where I would put these. If you tell me, Mr. Rose, I have an emergency, I have to go to the restroom, I'm going to say, where's your restroom pass? If you don't have it, say, sorry. So make sure you hold on to these. You can go ahead and put your names on them now so that you've got them. But the other thing I'll mention about these restroom passes is that if you don't use them, if you don't have to go to the bathroom twice in this quarter, you will get 2 extra credit points added on to your final grade for the quarter. So if you end with a 78 at the end of the quarter, and you have not used the restroom the entire quarter, then I would bump you up to an 80. And even if you end with a 72, I'll bump you up to a 74. But I will give you extra credit points at the end of the quarter if you don't use the restroom passes. But these are for emergencies. And obviously I want people to be able to use the restroom when they have an emergency, but it's 2 per quarter, okay? And one other thing about restroom passes that I will mention, school policy is not first 10 minutes, last 10 minutes of class, so don't ask me first 10 minutes of class, don't ask me last 10 minutes of class. That is a school policy that students shouldn't be in the hallway. If it's the last 10 minutes, you can wait 10 minutes till the bell rings. The first 10 minutes, I would say, why didn't you just go 2 minutes ago? And then the other thing I'll mention is please don't interrupt me in the middle of teaching. There's nothing worse than maybe we're in the midst of some really great book that we're talking about and we have this really impassioned conversation going on about slavery or something. And like there's this moment and someone has their hand raised and I'm like ready for this thoughtful, interaction to whatever we're reading. And I'm like, yes, talk to me. And they're like, I gotta go to the bathroom. So please, if we're in the midst of something that's like, it's not a good time, like just wait a few minutes. There will be a point where it's an okay time. And I will say, I'm not going to put like a thing on the board about this, but one thing that may be even easier, bit of sign language, the letter R in sign language. If you cross your fingers like this, that's the letter R. If you need to use a restroom, one way that's really easy is if you just hold that up. We don't even have to acknowledge it. I can just be like, okay, go ahead. You're good, right? Don't go now because we're less than 10 minutes left. But if you give me the letter R, it helps me. But again, you get 2 per quarter. Once you've used them, they're exhausted. At the beginning of second quarter, I will give you 2 more that you can use for the upcoming quarter. Okay? Let's see. And we only have a few minutes left. There are some more procedures and things we're going to talk about over the next few days. The last thing that I would like you to do, most days in here, we will try to end with some sort of exit ticket that sort of sums up what it is that we've learned, what we've talked about. If you would, on these, not the restroom pass, on the the sheet of paper that I gave you when you initially came in. Go ahead and take those back out, and this is the final exit ticket that I'm going to ask to get from everybody. The first thing I'd like you to write down, and if you have to cheat on this and look over that way, you can. But ultimately on Friday, when we take the procedures quiz, I will be taking this down. So I would say see if you can do this without cheating. But first thing I'd like you to write on the back, what are the 4 steps to coming into class? And then underneath that, the last item is what are my 4 pet peeves. So the 2 things that you'll have on the back of this, the 4 steps to coming into class, and Mr. Rose's pet peeves. And if you can't see the poster board over there, you're not sure, just do your best at coming up with these. Ultimately, it's just seeing where you're at. What do you know? What do you maybe need to walk over that way and revisit? So let's do this. Go ahead and wrap up wherever you're at, even if you just got the first 4 done. I know time-wise, so we're good. And then actually on your way out the door, you can hand those to me on your way out.